What's up, shooters? My name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SB Interviews, where today, for our fourth one, we're going to be checking out a guy named Luke Jon Shearer from Dark Pod Record Tours, an incredibly busy musician at the moment. We'll switch over to here. We've got him on the main screen. Welcome, Luke. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Not bad at all. Feel free just to take the moment to sort of talk, let us know who you are as a person, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Hey guys, well, my name's Luke Jon Shearer. I've been a musician now on a professional level since about 2010. In that time, I've been fortunate enough to tour pretty much all over the world, release my own records under a few different projects I've got going, and also pretty recently I've started up my own record label. So I've been very busy.
Yeah, because how many different projects have you got going at the moment?
I think I've got five, and they're all active. They're all actually, I'm working on new material for all of them at the minute, so there'll be new stuff out from each project this year. So very busy.
Because with the sort of customary little bit of research I do, obviously before these interviews, to make sure I know something about who I'm speaking to. You released your first album in 2013, your first self-titled. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So since then, it's that was my first solo record. I played in a number of bands up until that point, but that was my first solo record, and everything kind of snowballed from there. And since then, I've released, I've got an ambient project named Army of Sleep, which I released a record for last year. Working on more of that stuff. I've got an acoustic project named called Strangers of the Night, which I'm currently working on an album for. And I've got a couple of dance projects as well. My newest one, Kamikaze Disco Kitten. It's a real fun little project I'm working on with another musician from Australia named Dylan Michelle Taylor. She's very talented, so it's a good little project I've invested in recently. So very busy.
Because it must be pretty. I'm just trying to figure out how you would go between all these genres of music. Like, what's your approach to working between these different genres and getting all that stuff sorted?
Well, I love all different kinds of music. So when I first started off with my main project, which is still my baby, Luke Jon Shearer, it's kind of I'd finished a couple of records of that, and it's kind of I come from like a darker perspective on things, and as you go through different changes in life, there'll start other emotions that I started feeling, and then I thought that didn't really fit in with the Luke Jon Shearer sort of vibe. So with that, I started writing different styles of music, and then once I had all these different styles of music, I thought to myself, well, they don't really fit in with Luke Jon Shearer. So I came up with a bunch of different names, and then I just started writing for each of them. As for how that all comes about, well, I love them styles of music, and I've been fortunate enough recently to do a lot of work with film and TV as well, where that's sort of all the ambient sort of instrumental stuff comes in. But as for, I don't really sit down and say, okay, well, today I'm going to write a Luke Jon Shearer piece, or today I'm going to write an Army of Sleep piece, or Strangers of the Night piece, or whatever the case may be. I kind of, I guess, with whatever emotion I'm feeling at the time, I kind of just go with that, and wherever that takes me, I guess I kind of place it into whichever band suits, I suppose.
Because you're sort of fully self-produced, aren't you? You play your own instruments. You're all covered there, aren't you?
Yeah, I can play pretty much everything except drums. So I wish I could play drums, but it's something I haven't yet mastered. Maybe one day.
Because I think, like, how do you handle it when you do these shows? I assume you'd probably be hiring people to kind of help out.
Yeah, live. I have a really close knit group of session musicians that have helped me out enormously over the years. If I if I do a tour in the US, for example, I have a list of American musicians that I usually hire that are over there. I'd fly into the US a week before the tour starts, and we'd go into a studio and rehearse for a week, and then we'd go on the road. Same as in if I'm in Europe, I have a bunch of guys that are based in England, so I'd fly into England. We'd rehearse for a week, and then we'd go around there. I just that way. It's being sort of an independent musician. It's a good way of getting to see the world on a bit of a cheaper budget, I suppose, rather than flying everyone over from Australia. I have got a guitarist that does sometimes come everywhere with me, depending on his availability. But I'll find that it's just a nice little way to take my music to the world on an independent label budget. I have sometimes just done solo stuff as well, like solo acoustic stuff, which has been a lot of fun. But it's always, I find full band shows is what I get the most satisfaction from doing. So that's what I like to do as much as I can.
Yeah, because I was reading you have been a few places, haven't you, with this? You have done quite a bit of traveling. You've been to, obviously, you've been to the States, you've been to Japan and Europe and other countries. How, like, your favorite experience over like the last while in any of these countries?
I always love going to the US, but I played a festival in South Africa, Oppie Copy Festival, back in 2014, that was a real eye opener. It was a completely different culture, obviously. That was a lot of fun. Also, Europe, Europe I find's a lot of fun. I've been there. I was supposed to go there last year actually, but due to COVID, sort of had to put the hold on that. But yeah, I love the US and obviously Europe. Favorite place in Europe would probably favorite place to play shows, probably Germany. I think I really enjoyed Berlin when we were there. I've been there twice now, and that was really cool. Just I find a lot of everywhere there's a real cool vibe with music. They obviously love their music. But yeah, Berlin was really cool. So was actually Japan. They're crazy about their music over there. It doesn't seem to matter what genre either. They just get into it, which is really awesome.
Because do you typically go there with like one of your projects and just do shows for that, or do you kind of try to go do a couple of shows with different projects? How does that sort of thing sort of work?
At the moment, mainly the Luke Jon Shearer that's the main sort of project that I tour with all the time. I haven't actually played any shows for any of the other projects as yet. Just as I sort of started getting them off the ground, sort of COVID hit, and I haven't really figured out how to incorporate all of those projects into the one into under the one banner. Maybe in future it'll be billed as the Luke Jon Shearer show, where I'll incorporate a couple of songs from the different projects that could maybe fit. But I haven't really thought about touring with the other projects as yet. But when the time comes, if the time comes, depending on what happens with the COVID situation, I'm sure I'll start touring with them at some point. Yeah.
Because, like, if we were to take a moment to actually address the COVID situation, you're in Australia over, like, how are things over there in regards to that and how it affects your ability to do shows and stuff?
Yeah. Well, at this point in time, shows are going ahead with limited capacity. I haven't looked at booking any shows yet, just simply because I'm busy getting some new music ready. I have some friends that have started to venture into into shows again, and from all reports, everything's going well. We're hoping, listening to the couple of government releases of late, I think we're working towards back to full capacity. I actually heard the other day they're trying to maybe get a bubble between New Zealand and Australia where we can sort of go back and forth without the quarantine, which is it's a lot, because I love New Zealand as well and I visit there quite a lot, so that'll be awesome. I'd probably organise some shows over there soon if all goes well. But we all depends. All the states here are quite different. New South Wales seems to be pretty relaxed with the COVID restrictions at the moment. I know Western Australia I think they were in a lockdown just recently, and maybe South Australia was as well. So it's still a by the day proposition, but from what I'm hearing, we're slowly but surely getting towards hopefully full capacity shows for gigs and that, which will be awesome. What about you guys? How is it? What's the situation in New Zealand?
I mean, like, we're basically able to kind of do what we want at the moment. We've had a few scares, like, but it's nothing in comparison to a lot of the kind of horror stories that you hear about other parts of the world, you know. We would love for more acts to come tour here. Really would. Like, we'd love for yourself to come over and sort of play some music here, because, you know, while there's a lot of, obviously, Kiwi artists are doing a fantastic thing, having that international kind of acts come in is also pretty dope.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll put it on the list now.
Sick. So I suppose having this kind of downtime, as you said, you've been busy on all these upcoming releases. Do you want to go sort of more into specifics of any of those? Like, are there any particular stories you want to tell about any of those particular projects, or?
Yeah, well, Strangers of the Night, which is mainly just myself and acoustic guitar. I've got a new single coming out with that called Gone on the 30th of April, and I'll have a full-length album to follow in June, and that's going to be called Family Tree. The whole album is basically just about family, really, about certain connections within a family. I've got a really small but close-knit family, and it's just, as for songwriting, I'm writing more direct with Strangers of the Night, whereas with my Luke Jon Shearer stuff, I write sort of a bit abstract in a way that you kind of really got to think about what I'm talking about. Like, it could mean anything, whereas with Strangers of the Night, I'm more direct. The songs are more direct in, you know, like, I guess, balladry, so to speak. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really excited about it. I just got a video back for the first single the other day, and it's I'm really stoked about it, so I can't wait for people to hear it.
Is it sort of nice to be more straightforward in terms of, like, your sort of lyrics and such? Is that a nice change from sort of the more abstract stuff, or is it just another kind of side to yourself as a musician?
Yeah, I guess it is nice. It's more. I guess it's helps people get to know me a little bit more, I suppose. It's easier to understand. It's stuff that, you know, people can relate to easily. It's mainly, you know, relationship based, so, you know, everyone can relate to that. And it is nice. Yeah, nothing was really forced. When I write, nothing's really forced. I don't really have to sit down and say, okay, I've got to write a song that's this or this or that. It's kind of, it all came naturally. I guess that's just one of the different side to my musical psyche, I guess you could say.
Because, like, have you found that the production process has been quite different from how you'd write? Like, because I've listened to a bit of your Luke Jon Shearer stuff, and obviously, again, it's very atmospheric and very kind of open to interpretation. How different was the recording process and all that in comparison to that?
Yeah, well, my first two records that I did with Luke Jon Shearer, I actually had a producer. I had a producer for those, which is good in a way because sometimes when you self-produce stuff, you can get really caught up on things and really nitpicky, and because obviously when there's no time limit in the studio, you get to really stress over things, I suppose, and really go back and go over things, maybe um, do things too much, overdo things. So it's always good to have that other ear there to sort of say, no, man, that sounds good. Let's move on. That's one really great aspect of having the someone else there. Um, Producing by yourself, obviously, I always do whatever it is I want. So even when I worked with a producer, whatever I wanted to do, I did. But I guess sometimes when you don't have a producer, you don't have anyone there to rein you in, I suppose. And it's always a nice balance. But I guess with the acoustic stuff, for the Strangers of the Night, it's kind of, it's good. I just sort of done it with it's taken a while. I started working with Strangers of the Night good 2 years ago now. And I guess if I had a producer, I'd have probably one or two albums out now. But just been taking my time with it, and I've got an album of songs that are really cool, and I think it's good that I've taken that amount of time to piece this album together, because I've changed a few things over that course of time, but now I've got an album that I'm really really excited for, and yeah, really excited for everyone to hear it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's one thing to be sort of fretting over a mix and going, oh, should this be 0.25 dB higher or something like that? But as you said, like, you've been able to take your time with this as opposed to rushing it. And that's kind of the benefit of maybe not having someone saying, you need to do this faster, we don't have enough time, is that you don't release something you're kind of half-hearted about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly. I guess there's probably been a lot of bands in the past where they've been on, obviously had budgets and working with producers and that they've maybe, and I've heard lots of interviews with bands where they've kind of, they're not happy with this album or that album because, the time constraints. I'm fortunate enough, I've never been in that situation, and I don't ever wish to be in that situation. I guess for me, when the music's, when I'm 100% happy with it, I guess that's when people will hear it, and yeah, people won't hear anything from me until I'm 100% happy with it. So, which is, I guess, as a listeners, would be pretty exciting, I suppose.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you've got a record label, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So like, it's really comforting as someone who like would want to follow your music to know that you're not just putting stuff out,
yeah, yeah,
that you're putting a whole lot of thought and effort into it. That's really exciting.
yeah. Well, that's I guess that's the whole. I've always said that if I ever release the same thing twice, or if I ever release something that I'm not happy with, then I guess it's time to focus on something else, do something else. So yeah, but I guess that's why all the different projects, they keep me busy in that sense, that it's always fresh. Nothing ever gets stale, I suppose, which is awesome.
And so have we talked about the artists that you've collaborating with yet? Like,
Yeah, yeah, Dylan Michelle Taylor. Yeah,
hmm.
she's a fellow. Well, she's from Newcastle as well, actually, and I'm from Newcastle, a nice little city in Australia. And yeah, I can't even remember how we actually got to collaborating, but I can actually. She was doing some drum tracks on some of my Luke Jon Shearer stuff. I'm releasing. I've got new stuff in the works for that as well. I'll talk about in a bit, I suppose. But yeah, I kind of. She was doing some drum track stuff for my Luke Jon Shearer music, and she come up with this beat, and she said, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And we just sort of were joking around about it. We were like, "Oh, well, we could really turn this into like some kind of a dance project." And then I just picked up the guitar and put down a little guitar lick, and then it kind of went from there. And then Then we've got a couple of songs ready to go, and I'm in the process with my label. We're in the process of getting some artwork done for that, and that's definitely music I'd never thought I'd do. It's really fun. It's just kind of, I don't know, just get people up and moving about, I suppose. It's been after the year that a lot of people have had. I think it's one of those things we haven't put heaps of thought into, like lyrically or anything like that. It's just about having fun. So yeah, it's something that we're really, really, really proud of actually, and we're looking forward to people hearing that as well. So yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When it does open up a bit more, right? Inevitably, people are going to be wanting to have a really good time, right?
So
So you're probably going to find that a lot of people really dig that kind of music.
yeah, well, we've put sent a copy of the song out to a couple of people, that a couple of musician friends, and whilst they're surprised at what it is, because it's unlike but me, for definitely me, and Dylan's the same. We've never done any music like that before, so yeah, whilst they're surprised at what it sounds like, they think it's really cool. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, I mean, because as you said before, you said that at some point you wanted to sort of do different types of music that wouldn't necessarily fit into the Luke Jon Shearer brand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is just kind of your development as a musician, because if you've been going since 2010, music's actually changed a lot in that decade, hasn't it?
Oh, it sure has. The whole landscape's changed really, completely. It's pretty much turned on its head, as I'm sure you probably agree. What was popular in 2010 is probably not now, depending on. We've got a couple of pretty big radio stations over here, like Youth. You probably heard of Triple J. Um, that's changed. That's changed. It doesn't even sound like Triple J anymore. It's completely different now. But depending on what you love too and I'm sure you've got your stations over there where the genres have just changed. Not that what was happening in 2010 isn't still cool, but it's all sound good, but it's just people are wanting different things. And I guess there's so many different genres of music these days. It's impossible to keep up with them all. So that's another thing. I never try and write for genre, because I think I've always been of the belief that it's either good or bad, and I just kind of try and put more music into those two categories. So as far as genre, yeah, I'm sort of lost with it all. So I just try and write music that I like, and I'll let other people chuck it into whichever genre they see fit, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I can thoroughly appreciate what you're saying about maybe not paying as close of attention to genre, because of course when you try to write music to a certain genre, you're trying to put yourself in a box, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I've never, yeah, I've never wished to do that. I love certain genres of music. Don't get me wrong. There's some genres of music I absolutely love, but just for me personally, from a writing perspective and a sound perspective, I've never really sat out to try and write music to specifically fit one genre or another. So I like it when people tell me that they don't really know what my music sounds like. I take that as a compliment.
That's fantastic, because that's the thing. They don't. You don't even really need to. Isn't it kind of sort of a detrimental thing to tell someone what they think your music should sound like? Because it's more about the sort of experience and interpretation, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've always tried to write music the way I like to hear it. I like it to be somewhat of a cathartic experience. And when I sit down to write, my music is cathartic to me. And me being a music listener and a music lover, I feel as if it means something to me, then there's other music listeners or lovers out there that'll get something from it as well. And if they do, well, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. But yeah, I guess that's where I come from as far as um, the way I write. Yeah, it's cathartic for me. So then obviously, hopefully someone out there finds it the same for them.
Because I'm just thinking, you're talking about the radio stations before, right? And how they've changed.
Yeah.
And then obviously music's changed. And the radio stations aren't the way they were, right? And I'm well aware that people have not been relying on radio as much for quite a long time, right? What is your job? How is it being a record label, like an indie record label in this day and age in terms of distribution and all that sort of stuff?
Well, usually it's sort of easy it's easier in that sense than maybe it was once upon a time, just because there's so many people releasing their own music. As far as distribution, there's heaps of different companies online that do the online distribution, and I've got a couple of different ones that we use. I've formed a couple of quite good friendships with some of them over time. At the moment, I'm just producing and releasing all my own stuff, but I'm looking to, at the moment, actually as of now, I'm looking to branch out and start releasing some albums from some other cool bands that I'm really into. So I'm currently chatting with a couple of bands trying to figure out some finer details. But yeah, I find back in the day, once upon a time, I suppose, it used to be maybe only the major labels. If you couldn't get on a major label, there was maybe no other way of getting your music out. And so I guess that's why a lot of indie labels were formed, and there's heaps of them now. There's lots of different indie labels now. I found it quite easy to get your music out there. Obviously, you brand it the right way, and if it's quality stuff, you can get it. We have physical distribution, which, I mean, it's sort of a thing of the past, which is something I miss greatly. I remember growing up, just going to the record shop and getting a CD, taking it home, reading the notes, who the band thinks, and I think that's the thing that's sadly one of the things that sadly the music industry is lacking now with, but it's just, I guess that's the way that it is, and I don't think it'll ever come back, just because it's obviously the press discs, and but we do as much as we can. I press all my stuff on disc. I actually press it on vinyl as well, because vinyl still, believe it or not, is very popular amongst a small niche of people, but you can't beat that vinyl sound either. So, but yeah, I mean, gone are the days where physical copies of CDs are kind of a thing of the past, unfortunately. But as I could see before, they're praising. I'm guessing you wish it was coming back too. It's hard to. You can still buy physical copies, but I mean, a lot of, especially like the smaller, really small indie labels, they don't seem to be doing physical copies anymore, which is a shame. But I mean, you've got to work within certain budgets, I suppose, and it's a lot cheaper to release an MP3 online digitally than it is to press an album or whatever. So I can understand why bands solely just do that, but yeah, it is a shame.
I mean, I agree with the LPs especially. For one, they are quite popular, and there's a really nice sound to them. There's a reason why a lot of like high-end plugin developers, they'll put like, Slate Digital?
Yeah.
They have a plugin that makes it sound like the music's going through a tape machine, and it adds a nice color to it, right?
Yeah, you can't beat that. That's, I mean, that's just beautiful, isn't it? Old school sound. It's really nice. I know I've got some, I don't have a vinyl player, but I need to get one, but I've got a friend that does, and just the sound is just beautiful. Yeah, really crystal clear. And because with just the way with MP3s are, everything's compressed on an MP3 when you upload music for distribution. A lot of it comes out. You upload WAV files, but then when it gets compressed down, everyone's listening to MP3s, and the sound is really compressed, and it just doesn't. with vinyl, it just has more room to breathe. And that might sound silly that a song has room to breathe, but I know a lot of people that when you hear it, you can know, you just can tell. But it is what it is, and but you're right in what you say with the Slade stuff. It's just fantastic.
But just yeah, like as you're saying, it's uncompressed, right? So you're literally getting a better musical experience because of that, right? That's why I'm glad that that vinyls did come back, because then it allowed the people who like wanted to have that full experience. It allows them to actually have that as opposed to just relying on Spotify with a normalized, just that applies normalization to everything to just kind of, yeah, I'm glad that we still have options. So I can totally vibe with what you're saying about physical copies, and I'm glad you guys, I'm glad that you do them. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean they're not as I've found with my my the sales and monthly analytics stuff that not a lot of people are buying the CD and LP anymore, but I'm sure the ones that are, they've they'd be enjoying it. But yeah, it's just it's like you can just feel the music. You can not only hear it, but you can just feel it, and that's it's really awesome. But yeah, that's just each their own, I suppose. But me, I guess I'm a bit old school like yourself. I just love the big full sound of things not being so compressed.
But also, it's just the kind of weird situation we've got here where a lot of modern music is resorting to sort of like tonalities from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of it is, and I know a lot of the software, a lot of the synth stuff, and a lot of the plugins you can buy. That a lot of the stuff that I'm noticing now when I'm looking around for certain plugins, a lot of it, especially in the dance genres of music, a lot of it has that old school, like 80s, like disco synth sound to it. And I've noticed some of the guitar stuff as well. There's real still, yeah. So I mean, it's very popular. That era, that sort of era of music is still very popular. Uh, be awesome if we could get back to listening to music the way they used to, I guess, back in the 70s and 80s, which we still have the option to, of course. But yeah, I think a lot of other people should. They're missing out, I think.
So, like, in regards to, because we can safely assume a lot of people who want to listen to music, arguably they might not allow themselves the time to just sit there and listen to the music, right? A lot of people are passively listening to music whilst they're doing something or they're multitasking. So how do you as a musician and as a record label, how do you get the attention of these people and sort of get them to listen to your music?
Well, I think that's another thing. A lot of people are buying just singles these days. A lot of people don't seem to be buying albums. So I guess promotion-wise, I try to maybe we'll promote short snippets of video or audio, and I always try and do it with. I find that graphic people like, as you say, if people are just sort of passively listening, because people 2021, like everyone's so busy, the world's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, so people are. It's getting harder to grab people's attention, of course, just because life life gets in the way, and it seems to be getting faster and faster. But I find that promoting short snippets of maybe like video, like a 30-second clip or 30-second visual clip. I always try and promote that. I've also got some really good PR behind us that they've got some really good contacts that seem to get my music, my releases into the right ears of people, so that helps. But yeah, I think just as for like naturally grabbing people's attention, I think we do spend quite a bit of money on advertorial stuff, which is obviously very helpful. So there is a bit of an outlay, of course, to try and get the word out there. So as we're not sort of, I guess, just caught up in the wash of everything else that's happening. But instead of I still like to release. I still like to release albums, which with the Luke Jon Shearer stuff, I'll always release albums. I've got another one coming out in July, actually, which I'm finishing up now. But I always like to release a couple of singles. As for, to promote an album, I'd release a couple of singles, maybe 6 to 8 weeks apart, and then drop the album. So that's sort of how I build up for an album release. But for single release, I'll try to just do some really short, like visualization stuff with some sound, maybe, like a real big build-up point in a song, just to try and grab people's attention. I find that works.
No, it sounds like you've got everything sorted. I mean that genuinely, because a lot of people just, for instance, rely on the song, and because they might be really fantastic musicians, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this song is a banger, but then it's like they put it out and they haven't done anything else. Like, again, as you talked about, they haven't spent time on branding or graphics. They haven't made a video for it, which I know a video is a considerable expense, but videos are helpful, eh?
Yeah. I find, I think if you've written a song and you think it's a banger, I think you really need to do the same amount of groundwork in getting people to hear it as you did in writing it. I feel, because there's so much music. That's another thing with the online distribution these days. You don't need a label necessarily to get music out. So there's so much content out there now, and I think to get heard, you really need, and I mean, not everyone can afford it, I suppose, but you can have a really, really great song, but I really feel, I strongly feel this way, that you need to really push it, promote it as well for it to get out there. I think you really, you need to spend as much time on sort of, even if you're only promoting it yourself. It's amazing what you can do in one weekend by sending emails out. It's amazing what you can do with just spending a bit of time on your music. It's really amazing what sort of reach you can get.
Yeah, so basically what you're suggesting, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is that, so let's just say you spend a day or two, maybe 4 to 6 hours working on a track, like a very basic kind of track, but one that sounds good nonetheless, right? You want to be spending that same amount of time doing all the PR work, all the kind of marketing stuff you need to do, all the distribution stuff. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely. If spend that amount of time on getting the song sounding really good, something that you're really proud of, why not? Another 4 to 6 hours. There's heaps of stuff available. A little bit of research, a little bit. Google's one that can be a terrible thing, but Google's also in the world of sort of do it at home, DIY music stuff, that you can get your music heard just by bit of self PR before you even get to that stage where maybe you want to hire someone else. I mean, I started off sort of back in 2010, just started off basically promoting myself. Got to the stage where, I even booked myself from festival shows overseas just through all DIY stuff, and I still do that now. I still have my finger right on the pulse of everything that I do. But nowadays, we can afford. I've got a tour promoter for the US, Europe, that book shows for us, and I've got PR that I sort of I still direct as to what I want done. So I'm still very much having my finger on the pulse of all of the releases, but I've got a little bit of help in now, which obviously is great. Takes a bit of the workload off myself, which is awesome.
Just thinking about everything that you said today, it's actually really inspiring. Because a lot of the time I speak to musicians who are kind of starting up or they've been going for a wee bit, they still haven't quite figured everything out. You sound like the kind of guy who's kind of got his ducks in a row, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's taken, obviously the music industry is very tough. It's a very tough game. But, yeah, it's taken good few years and with a bit of, you always get a bit of rejection along the way. But I feel as if I'm really in a place with my music where I can really pretty much do whatever I want and control my own destiny, which is it's a great thing to have. Being able to do what you love as a career is probably one of the best feelings in the world, I suppose.
Because that is ultimately the benefit of being an indie label, is that you do, like, it wasn't like in the late 20th century where musicians typically had a pretty rough time. Even
Yeah,
if they had quite a bit of leverage, often it wasn't enough until like the mid 90s when some of the bigger artists started speaking up and breaking contracts, right?
that's right. I mean, even I read a story the other day about a band that I quite like, and they were on a major. They've released I think they've sold 6 million records, and they haven't made a cent. Record labels are kind of, so there you go. Yeah, you'd think that they'd be smooth sailing, but that's another reason why I've I had a bit of, I was involved with one of my previous bands. We had a little bit to do with a major label, and they basically wanted to control everything that we wanted to do, and they right down to chord progressions in songs and things like that. So that's just something I wouldn't stand for. That's just something that I wouldn't wash with me at all. And then you hear these stories with major labels and bands are selling X million amounts of records and haven't made a cent. It just puts an even more sour taste in your mouth, I suppose.
Yeah, because I guess for some artists who still want a major label behind them, the pull is like that exposure, right? But as you're saying, there's these insidious sort of 360 deals, right?
Sorry, man. Yeah, it is. I guess they do throw a lot of money at getting you out there, and they'll get you out there. They'll probably get you on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine or whatever. But whether you're making any money out of it, I guess. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't do it first and foremost. You do it for the love of it. But I guess if you're selling 6 million records, why should someone else be getting all the money? That's my viewpoint. You're the artist, so was was HR getting 6 million album sales worth of money? Yeah, that would be frustrating to no end.
So you're thinking of sort of reaching out and releasing stuff or working with other artists in future, right? In addition to all the stuff. Like, what, before we go any further, were there any other things you wanted to sort of discuss in regards to your release schedule this year?
But yeah, I've got a new Luke Jon Shearer album coming out on the 21st of July called "The Mind Is a Monster," and it's sort of about, it's been written over the last 3 years, and it's kind of a concept album about how the mind, all the different things that the mind goes through, I suppose. And it's mind is a monster. It sounds pretty dark, and that's because it's pretty dark. It's going to be probably the heaviest album, for the first album I've had live drums recorded on, and it's going to be heavier than the heaviest stuff I've ever written. So I'm very, very excited for people to hear it. So that's July 21.
Do you think that there are going to be people who sort of vibe with that concept in this day and age?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do. I think that I mean, well, once upon a time, I guess mental health issues were kind of taboo, I guess, and it's something that people didn't like to talk about or didn't feel they could talk about. But I think these days now, it's and rightfully so, people are more happy to talk about their issues, or whether good or bad. And I think people can relate. The Mind Is a Monster is actually going to be like a part A to like a 2-part series, and later in the year in December I'll be releasing The Bright Side of Darkness, which is kind of the Mind Is a Monster is like, it's like light and day, like night and day. So Mind Is a Monster is going to be night, The Bright Side of Darkness is going to be day. So it's kind of more uplifting and more so a lot of thoughts gone into that little concept, and hopefully it sounds just as good as it does in my head when people hear it.
No, it's fantastic, because having that two-parter is nice, because even though, like, personally, I think it's fantastic that you're doing this. I think it's really good for people to be able to sort of show vulnerability as musicians and to not have that constant front, right? It's good at the same time for you to have that kind of ending there where it shows a balance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's that's like life is. It's sort of, you go through a lot of different emotions, and this is kind of like a journey. As for, people might be down in the gutter and don't feel like there's any way out, but there's just, even if there's just a little ray of sunshine or a little ray of hope, I think people are going to achieve it. So these 2 albums are going to hopefully portray, night and day, which I'm really excited about.
No, genuinely, I'm going to be keeping an eye out, because, like, I did listen through a fair bit of music from, like, your main projects, as well as, and I wasn't, like, because there was a track that you released. What was it? What was the track? I made a note of this somewhere. Hang on, I made a note. What was it? Peace on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That one did pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, that was the first single that I released back in 2013. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it did. It's a song that really sort of got my name out there, which was we did a video for that, and that song really, it sort of really got my name out there, and I gained a bit of airplay around from it, got a bit of a buzz. And off the back of that, that's where 2014, that's when I was fortunate enough to get booked on a couple of festivals. And that was the song though. That's still, I always play that song. Well, it's one of my favourite songs of mine as well. So, that song definitely is, that was the first single of my solo career. And that's the song that kind of started it all. So,
have we discussed what sort of inspired that?
No, well, that was inspired by, I guess that sort of relates to today's world. As back in 2012, like there was, there's a line in the song "Hunger Pains Crippling" where, like the amount of starvation in the world. Unfortunately, nothing's improved since 2013. We've still got war. We've still got lots of hatred and hunger, greed. So that the state of the world at that time inspired that song, and sadly that song probably still rings true today in a lot of instances, which is a shame. But that was inspired by, pretty much world events and my dream of, being peace on earth and nothing but love for everyone, I suppose.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and just that sort of, I think that just showcases how much of a genuine musician you are, because it would have been so easy to make a song like that and seem sort of disingenuous, as if it was just, everything should be happy, yay. No, you sounded like you genuinely cared about it, and that's something that's kind of rung true with the rest of the music that you've made over time, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I'm honest. I put pretty much my feelings onto CD, I guess, whether they be happy or, dark. That song, it's kind of got it's a bit of light to it, but it comes from a really dark place. It was kind of my view on what the world around us, and that, I really hope that I'm not a religious person, but in that song, I say praying for never-ending light. It's kind of like, like I'm sort of just begging, wishing, dreaming, because I was due to be a father for the first time in 2013. I now have a 7-year-old boy, so I guess when I wrote that, I was kind of like, I want, what sort of world is my little fella going to be growing up into? So I was kind of, begging for there to be nothing but love. But, unfortunately, there's still that kind of evil around us, but I think you can, with the right nurturing, you can get through life unscathed, hopefully.
Well, I mean, you're going to end this year with like a nice sort of bit of light and contrast, especially to this upcoming one. But, nothing wrong with heaviness. That's all good.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, indeed. I agree.
So just because I think we're running out of time, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself as a musician, or where can people find more of your music?
Yeah, you can find all our music, Dark Poet Records. Just Google that, you'll be able to find all of it. All our upcoming releases will be there. And I'm looking forward to you guys listening to my music when it's due, when it comes out. Can't wait. And I'll hopefully see you soon, wherever you may be. I'll be there. As soon as we can tour again, I'll be there. If you have a postcode, I'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I'll catch you later, Luke. You have a fantastic day, all right?
Thanks for having me, man.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And that was our review with Luke Jon Shearer. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was nice to listen to. I actually wanted to talk more, which is an interesting thing for me because I'm an introvert. I don't really like to talk at all. But here we are. Look, Luke is obviously a fantastic musician who's had a really successful career. He's doing really well for himself, has got a lot of music coming out this year. I'm going to put the links for all of these different projects in the description for this video. And, we are going to hopefully hear more from him soon. But thank you for watching this interview with Luke Jon Shearer from Dark Pot Records. I'll put the website link here so that you can go check that out. Please do check out his various social medias and his different projects. Stuff going all the way through December, so it's going to be a very busy year. But that's fantastic. I will catch you in the next interview. Remember, if you want to get interviewed by me, feel free to go and check out the stuff in the description, and I'll catch you later on. Oh, before I go, sorry, I need to do this at the end of each video. Please do remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more they can get with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. It's still relevant. People are still kind of stuck and can't do tours and stuff like that, so they need the support. So please do show some love if you can, or if you're able to. Even if you're not able to, just say hi to them. Send them a message, say hi, I hope you're well, or something like that, But I'll catch you later on. Spider Hands out.